As the movie begins, we are introduced to Minos Corporation, a mysterious organization that creates and invites people into their escape rooms. However, it quickly becomes evident that this is no ordinary escape room experience. Instead, failure to find all the clues and complete each room within the allotted time puts the player in real danger of death. As they play this game of life and death, other people gamble on their lives and bet on the winners. We then go back in time to the year 2003, when we meet a woman named Sonia. She walks up to her husband, Henry, the puzzle maker for the escape rooms at Minos. She informs him of her decision to divorce him and take their daughter, Claire, with her. However, Henry refuses to speak further on the matter, claiming he has a project deadline. Later, we find Sonia in the sauna to think things through. Soon, the room locks up, causing the temperature inside to rise rapidly. She realizes that her cries for help will do nothing, and she must solve the puzzles to escape. Despite her overwhelming anxiety, Sonia manages to find clues to escape. Unfortunately, the increasing temperature eventually takes her life, and she passes away. We then cut to the present day and meet the survivors of the previous game, Zoe and Ben. Having survived their last game, they now plan to expose Minos for their savage killings. Zoe manages to solve the coordinates from the company's logo and locate one of its headquarters in Manhattan. She convinces Ben to help her take Minos down, and together they plan a trip to New York City to visit them. Elsewhere, we meet Claire, who has now grown into a young adult. Her father, Henry, has locked her inside a glass cage forever, and she unwillingly helps him design the escape rooms. At that moment, it becomes clear that Henry plans to murder Zoe as she intends to expose the company. Thus, he has made numerous trials and errors while creating an escape room, all in an attempt to test her. In the meantime, we find Zoe and Ben at the airport, waiting to board their flight. However, she gets a flashback of the plane accident where her mother died and immediately backs out of the plan. Afterward, they rent out a car and drive to New York. They manage to reach the coordinates for the Minos headquarters, but find the entire building empty. Zoe enters through a broken fence, while Ben starts to get paranoid and suggests they leave immediately. Just then, a homeless man approaches them and asks them for money. When the two are distracted, he swiftly steals Zoe's necklace and runs away. As they chase him, they are lured onto a train, and the door closes just as the thief escapes. While on the train, Zoe notices that the train is mostly empty, with only 4 passengers beside them. She brushes it off until they all begin to hear strange noises from within the train. Zoe and Ben go on to check the conductor's booth. To their horror, they realize that their compartment has disconnected from the rest of the train. They all watch helplessly as the train speedily travels through the tracks and eventually crashes into an abandoned station. At that moment, Ben tells Zoe that Minos has found them, and they are caught in yet another of Minos's traps. The rest of the passengers begin to panic as they overhear this name. The 4 passengers, Theo, Brianna, Rachel, and Nate, reveal that they had also participated in Minos escape contests. Since they all survived their previous challenges, Minos has created a special escape room for them. In this tournament, the 6 must compete against each other to determine the ultimate champion among them. Just then, the train mysteriously plugs into the station's power supply. The entire train electrifies, and with this, the deadly game begins. The 6 of them must gather clues to escape in the given time, all the while saving themselves from the lethal electricity coursing through the train. Turns out, the group must locate the false ads scattered throughout the train and find the grammatical errors within them. Then, they use the alphabet they collect from those ads to locate tokens concealed in the handles. The retrieved tokens must be put into a slot into the conductor's machine, which, in turn, unlocks the trapdoor on the floor and helps them escape. In the meantime, the train gets increasingly electrified and the currents get stronger as time ticks. The group decides to use rubber as an insulator to touch the handles and manages to find almost all the tokens. A strong wave of current causes Theo to be startled and accidentally hold on to a metal bar in front of him. Rachel swiftly uses a sheet of rubber to push him away from the metal. Unfortunately, it is too late as Theo meets his tragic end. When they complete the puzzle, the phrase on the display board spells out, "Welcome back," just before it opens the trapdoor. They manage to jump down into the hatch just as the train fills with intense electrical currents. After entering through the trapdoor, they find themselves on an elevator that takes them underground. Afterward, the group exits the elevator and finds themselves in a replica of a bank. They see a vault door on the opposite side of the room, which they have to walk up to get to the next room. Just then, Brianna steps onto a tile, which accidentally activates a full-blown laser system throughout the room. Nate and Rachel then cautiously guide her away from the tile that deactivates the lasers. Moments later, the group realizes that their only way to the vault is through the tiles that could activate such lethal lasers at any time. Moreover, they realize that the vault is set to lock in 10 minutes and activate a full laser grid system throughout the room. With time clicking away, the group begins to frantically search for clues. Nate then stumbles upon lollipops attached to keys, which the group uses to open the safety deposit boxes. Eventually, they gather clues to find the safe tiles up to halfway through the vault. Nate then volunteers to create a path across the room for the rest of them. He cautiously steps from one tile to another, trying to avoid triggering any lasers. Somewhere along the way, he accidentally steps on the wrong tile and activates the lasers. He suddenly falls over and strikes his head against the counter. While he is knocked out, Brianna and Rachel carefully lift him off the tiles and deactivate the lasers. In the meantime, Zoe manages to find a map of the safe tiles that leads them to the vault. With time running out, she asks the rest of the group to follow the path while she guides them. Ben carries Nate, while Rachel and Brianna mark the trail for Zoe. She barely makes it to the vault in the remaining seconds before it locks up and the laser system activates throughout the room. They hastily make their way out of the vault and soon arrive at a replica of a beach. Without wasting another second, they begin to search for clues in the sand to escape this hellish nightmare. They pull an anchor based on a clue, but it accidentally sets another trap in motion. As the quicksand starts to swallow everything, Rachel finds herself sinking. Nate swiftly ties a rope around his body and bravely dives in to save her. With his help, she manages to come to the surface, and the group tries to pull Nate back up as well. Unfortunately, the rope snaps and he tragically sinks into the quicksand. Following this, the group grabs the anchor and uses it to unlock the nearby beach cabin. Inside, they scour the area and discover clues that indicate they need to find a missing plug to unlock the refrigerator. Shortly after, Zoe flips a small switch that leads the lighthouse outside the cabin to reveal a set of ladders. However, it also speeds up the quicksand sinking process. Zoe swiftly heads outside and climbs up the ladders on the lighthouse. Fortunately, she discovers some clues which Ben uses to locate the missing plug and open the refrigerator. In the meantime, she also notices an alternative route on the moon decor and informs the rest of the group. However, they find themselves in a dilemma as they are unsure of which exit to take. Rachel then decides to follow Zoe and climbs up the lighthouse. In the meantime, Brianna is convinced that the refrigerator is the way out and refuses to join them. Ben then leaves her behind and hurries to the lighthouse. While doing so, the ladder breaks off and he tragically falls to his death in the sinking sand. With only two of them left, Zoe and Rachel continue moving and eventually reach a sewer system. Suddenly, they hear the sounds of the bustling city and happily climb up the ladder. They soon find themselves in the middle of the city, relieved that they made it out of the game alive. However, Brianna frantically runs towards them and tries to reach the room they had just left. The hatch closes right as she gets there, revealing that the three of them are still trapped in the game. Soon after, Brianna informs them that it rains acid whenever the timer ticks down. The trio then takes shelter under an awning just in time to protect themselves from the second acidic rainfall. The phone keeps ringing, and they speculate that the next clue is inside a locked phone booth nearby. They soon find another clue. They need to collect the acid to dissolve the chains and lock off the booth. They successfully pull it off, but the space inside the booth isn't enough for the three of them. So Rachel and Brianna enter the booth while Zoe remains outside. Just before the timer runs out, Rachel throws her an umbrella and Zoe manages to uncover another clue that they need to pick up the phone on the third ring. When they do this, the cab door opens and she quickly gets in. But before Rachel and Brianna get to her, the doors to the cab and the booth suddenly slam shut. They desperately try to open it up, but the timer goes out on them before they can find a way in. Zoe watches helplessly as Rachel and Brianna tragically dissolve in the acid rain. Just then, the car seat transforms into a hatch and Zoe finds herself outside Claire's prison. She soon learns that Claire has been the one designing all the rooms. Claire entreats her to assist her in escaping the glass prison, promising to guide her to Ben upon her release. This leaves Zoe puzzled, but she shows footage of Ben in another room. She reveals that she saved Ben by placing an extractor tank under the sands on the beach and taking him to a safe place. Suddenly, they notice that Henry's henchmen find Ben and take him to the final escape room, the sauna. Then, Zoe and Claire come together to liberate her from the glass box and prevent Ben from cooking in the sauna. Just then, Henry barges in and holds them at gunpoint before they can leave. Surprisingly, one of his henchmen turns out to be Claire's friend and he shoots the old man in the shoulders. Claire then uses this opportunity to push her father inside the glass box and lock him in. Without wasting another second, Claire rushes to the computer to deactivate the escape room and save Ben's life. Afterward, she gives Zoe the keys to her father's car and informs her that the coordinates for the headquarters are correct. Besides this information, Claire reveals that she'll call the police once she gets far away from the Minos. When Zoe arrives at the headquarters, she discovers that the Minos henchmen have been arrested. She also finds Ben being taken inside an ambulance after having been severely burned by the sauna steam. He then hands Zoe her mother's necklace, revealing that someone gave it to him. She believes it came from Claire, likely as a sign of gratitude and appreciation. Just when it seems like the nightmare is over, a chilling truth comes out. It was Claire, not Henry, who locked and killed Sonia in the sauna. Claire's actions were motivated solely by her perception that her mother was beginning to lose affection for her due to her unique personality. It turns out that Sonia wasn't planning to leave Henry and take Claire with her. She had started to notice her disturbing behaviors as a child and wanted to get her the psychiatric help that she needed. In the end, Claire returns to her father and eerily tells him that they will be proud to see her true potential. She then intentionally enters the wrong code, removes all the oxygen from the glass box, and tragically kills Henry. The movie explores a puzzling story full of twists and turns, betrayal, and violence. It gives us the moral that the world is no longer sane and we have to expect the unexpected.